Welcome back to Tech Throwback. In the last video, you guys saw me open up our tote with 96 pounds of phones in it and start going through them to try to find some cool phones. We were just kind of going one by one and checking out the models on every single phone we found. $500 of phones in that case. Well, it's been a few days. I've gone through all of the phones for the most part, and I've pulled out a few that I think are the coolest ones. And they're not even all phones, but a few of the coolest electronic pieces that I found in the tote. And I want to share that with you today. You can get a good idea of kind of what I got in that tote and see that we've easily covered our money from buying that tote. So we're just going to jump right into this with Apple. Where else would I start? Obviously, I am a big Apple fan, so we've got a cool pile here of Apple stuff. So here we have an 80 gig iPod Classic. This is really iPod Video. You can see it has the color screen. It totally works. It's got loads of good music on it, and I'm sure everybody remembers this. We will go through this in another episode. We'll go through all these phones in another episode in way more depth. So I pulled about 23 iPhones out of the tote so far, and almost every single one of them works, which is unbelievable. This one is perfect with a screen protector on it, and once I pull the screen protector off, I'll have another phone completely ready to go. This one looks like a 4. It's got a dock connector on it. So there's one of the iPhones. Moving on to the best iPhone I found in the entire thing. This is an iPhone 7 Plus that is completely working, ready to go. I've already got it wiped, and we know it works perfectly. Dual camera phone, huge screen. Also, just take a look here. Here's the comparison from an iPhone 4 to an iPhone 7 Plus. Is that not insane? I know there's a case, but the case doesn't add that much. There's the actual screen right there. Wild how far we've come. Even the 13 is gigantic compared to the original iPhones. We'll set those aside and we'll jump right into some of my favorites, the Palm series. And I have 3 of them, 3 Palm Trios here. This one is completely working. No SD card in there, but it is on, as you can see, and working. This one is missing a battery, another 700p. So I think this one's not actually 700p, it's close though. The keypad changes a little bit, and this should have been a slightly later model. It doesn't have the antenna on it, but it's just a little cleaner. The battery's completely swollen. This is a 680. So it will probably work, but I think I'm gonna have to buy a battery to get it to work. You know, these are my absolute favorites. A Sony Clie. So this is a color Sony Clie. You can tell it's got a very black screen, so it's definitely one of the color ones. The PEG T615C, and I don't have a power adapter for this thing. It obviously uses like a proprietary connector because they all had docks. So I will get that, and I'm sure this thing will fire up. I can't wait to have another PalmOS thing to play with. I mean, PalmOS was the best. We all know how innovative PalmOS was, so on to another very innovative company, HTC. Everything HTC built was pretty awesome. This is a T-Mobile like chocolate looking thing, but it is an HTC phone. Cool little slider there with a jog dial on the front. So you can spin, press in for enter, and a 2 megapixel camera built by HTC and running Windows. So that'll be a cool one. It has not fired up yet, but we'll get it back on the charger and see what happens. Another HTC Windows Mobile phone. This has a 3.2 megapixel camera. As you can see, one of the coolest phones ever made. It's basically a laptop. I had an 8125 and 8925 Titans and Titan 2s, and they were just so cool because you literally were like getting a little laptop out, and they obviously run the Microsoft Office suite. So you have Excel, Word, Exchange, all that great Microsoft software for productivity built into the phones. This one is wiped and completely ready to go. We'll get more into that later. And then one of HTC's later, much later actually, Android phones. One that I really love because it was so gimmicky, and I never owned one, but I got to use it a couple times, and it was really cool. The clock jumped out of the home screen, and you guys already know what I'm talking about. It is the HTC Evo 3D. Dual cameras, dual flash, gigantic shutter button with the 2 clicks. You had a focus click too, and you could change the camera from 2D and 3D with a hardware switch. Unfortunately, it has not booted yet, but hopefully we will get this thing running. I think this is stuck at the bootloader. So if we can flash this, I'll be super pumped to have an Evo 3D. Now, I probably have 150 LG phones I've pulled out of the tote so far. but this one might be the latest and coolest one in there. This is of course the LG Nexus that you might have had on Google Fi. Fingerprint reader on the back. It's got a great camera. It's super lightweight, but I think this one is activation locked. We'll see if we can defeat that and have another great Android phone to play with. I definitely owned one of these and it was a really solid phone. A few of the more unique phones here, we have a Pantech on AT&T, a little 3-button Android kind of thing, although I doubt it's Android. I think this is actually a custom OS on these Pantechs. 2-megapixel camera, it slides up to reveal a full keyboard. A little hint of pink in there to, accent the phone, give it a little bit of style. And to go along with that one, another AT&T Pantech slider that slides the other way to reveal a full keyboard. This one with a hint of green. So 2 cool little Pantechs with 2-megapixel cameras, almost the exact same phone, but they slide different directions. We've got 2 Sonys to talk about here. One that's important for one reason. It's one of the CyberShot ones that was supposed to be a digital camera. Slide open that cover and you can see it has the camera hiding behind it. And it says 2.0 megapixels autofocus. I still don't know why putting autofocus on the label was such a big deal. We kind of expect autofocus, okay? Phone manufacturers. And then, of course, one we talked about in the first video, the slider Sony Walkman. This is a cool phone. It will not power up, or hasn't yet, but it's one of the Walkman editions that is designed for playing music. Hopefully I can get that powered up in the future. The only Casio phone in the entire tote was, of course, the single rugged Verizon Casio GZ1. It fired right up. We've got this ready to go, and I can't wait to show you guys more on this phone. And a lot of people have wanted to see some rugged phone testing. We may just throw this one off a roof. Now, the last of our Windows Mobile phones for the day, we have this Nokia that was on Singular. It's got a cool 4-way navigator joystick in the middle of it. It ran Windows as well. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get it to boot up yet, but we will, and hopefully make a video about that phone because it is very cool. And of course, one more Nokia. We talked about it in the last video, the Nokia 822. This is an actual Windows phone. So it's basically like Windows 8 when you fire it up. Carl Zeiss lens, 8-megapixel camera. This thing does run and would probably work perfectly if I threw it on Verizon today. Another fun one, the BlackBerry Torch slider. We talked about it in the last video as well. It's probably the coolest of the BlackBerries that I found in the tote. It seems like it should work, but the battery's missing, so I have a battery on order so we can make a video about that. BlackBerry made so many cool phones, and I can't wait to share them all with you guys if you haven't seen them before. This is a very, very nice, really well-designed, solid feeling slider. One of the best ones there is. I pulled a couple Nokias out that I'm very excited about as well. This is an old school little Nokia candy bar, full color, and it's basically like a nightclub in your hand. I can't wait to show you guys this one. It's maybe the coolest one in the whole stash so far. It's got a camera. Its screen's really, really bad, but it's interesting to say the least. And of course, another Nokia that we had to include because it's one of the best ones ever made, the Nokia 5000 series. I don't think this one was a 5125 like I was expecting. It is a 5170i. And I haven't fired it up yet, but I sure hope it does work. I set a couple Samsungs aside that are pretty cool. Here we have a Samsung that's on track phone, but it's the display phone. It has a weight in it instead of being a working phone. And then we have the exact same phone that actually works. I don't remember exactly what this phone is. The SCH S738C, it works perfectly. It's ready to go, wiped, and we'll make some videos on this phone. But I just thought it was pretty funny that I have the store display and the actual phone. The Samsung Reclaim. What an interesting name, right? So it's green for recycling, I guess. Green for eco. It says eco right on the back. It's a slider. It's a nice quality slider. Full keyboard underneath the slider, and it does work perfectly, ready to go. 2-megapixel camera, and it looks like it even has a 3.5mm headphone jack. Go Samsung. Very strange. I'm sure this didn't sell well, but it's a cool design. While we're on the sliding Samsungs, we have a slider on T-Mobile that's just a nice, compact, standard old feature phone slider. It's got a camera. I'm sure it works pretty well, and it's Samsung build quality, you know? And then we're gonna throw it all the way back to one of the OG Samsung flip phones right there. We did mention it in the last video because it's one of the ones I was pumped to pull out. And if we can find a way to charge this thing, hopefully I can share this one with you as well. It's a really cool old phone from, the early 2000s, one that a lot of people had, and it's probably got some cool features. On to another Samsung that was in the tote, one of the newest ones there is. This is a Samsung SMA102U, and it's a nice compact, you know, the same smartphone you'd expect from everybody today. Very well put together, solid feeling, and I think that one is boot looping, unfortunately. So here we have the craziest, most expensive phone that was in the entire setup. This is a Note 8, and it's the one that had the S Pen in it that does slide out. Even though it's very sticky, it doesn't want to come out this time, but it's totally working. I've got it charged. Unfortunately, the screen is cracked there on the edge and it's activation locked, but still works fine. It does not care that the screen's cracked. I'm sure it has great cameras, fingerprint reader, all of the features you would expect, and it's the 64 gig edition from the sticker on the back. So by far, I mean, that's a $1,000 phone or something like that, at least it was. That would have been enough to cover the whole tote. Another one some people mentioned in the comments that I hadn't found until later, one that I'm very excited to own. This is a Palm Pre, it's a slider. This one has some little cracks down around the edges, and I don't think the scroll wheel or whatever this is, the four-way navigator, I don't think it works right, even though it does light up. It's a very sweet slider, and everything seems to work very well. I mean, the phone fires up, works great, good camera. Honestly, an amazing interface, one that I'm kind of blown away by, and I can't wait to make a dedicated video for the Pre because it's a phone I should have bought. I mean, this is really, really good. Way better than I ever expected. So that is the Palm Pre. Another honorable mention award from LG here. This is not a slider. It doesn't slide up, it doesn't slide sideways, there's no keyboard. What it is a straight touchscreen phone. It's kind of a feature phone that works really well, way better than you would expect. And when you're playing music, it has a full drum kit. So that's why it's an honorable mention, because you can play the drums along with the music. Cool feature, LG, and it's relatively responsive. It has a real headphone jack, very music centric. I think it even has a music button. It sure does. So cool phone from LG. I don't remember what it's called. We'll dig more into this one later so we can do a full walkthrough of its interface. Music phones are pretty sweet. Now this is a phone you might have had or been familiar with. This is a Sanyo that was built for Sprint, and it has a full color screen. It's a kind of a candy bar form factor there, retractable antenna, if we can get it to pop up and down, and it's a lightweight, stands on its own. Just a very cool phone that seems to work perfectly. So that one should be fun to go through. And then of course here we have its big brother, another Sanyo on Sprint with a camera. I mean, this one doesn't even have a camera. This one has a monster of a camera. They called it the smart camera for its time period. When the phone's flipped open, I'm pretty sure it has a flash there, a full color screen that works very well, web browser, all the things you would expect on a modern feature phone on this old one. And if I remember right, when it boots up, it has pictures and videos of businessmen walking around. So if you're a businessman, this was your phone. It even has a color screen outside. So very cool. Two Sanyos that are working perfectly and we're ready to check out. Now to finish this video off, where would we be without Motorola? So that is where we are ending the video. Of course, the company that really made cell phones the thing that they are. The first cell phones in America were really Motorola's, and to kick it off here, we have two sliding Motorola Droids. So these run Android, 5 megapixel cameras, real headphone jacks on them, and I'm pretty sure they're both working. They came in cool colors. And this was a phone that a ton of people had when the Android revolution was starting. Both of these were on Verizon, and they both work great. I mean, Motorola doesn't let you down. So two original droids right there. Those are the real droids. I mean, everybody likes to call their Android droids for some reason. That's not what that is. Droids are the Motorola brand, but they do run Android. So there you go, that's the explanation. Another one right here, this one might have been the Droid 1, I don't remember for sure, but we'll dig into this later. It's got a cool red carbon fiber back on it, and it works great. So another win on an Android phone, dual LED flash, great camera, big screen. Motorola building good stuff again. I think I forgot one final Windows Mobile phone. This one is beat, completely beat. You can see the finish is coming off. It had like a rubberized texture, and she's really hurt, but it's got a scroll wheel on the side for the interface, option buttons there, home and back buttons, full QWERTY keyboard on there, and I mean, the finish is just, it's gone. and I don't think this powers up, but it also has an infrared port. So very interesting, and possibly mini SD under this little rubber cover that's failing. 1.3 megapixel camera. Hopefully that phone fires up because this was another classic from back in the day. Finishing off Motorola classics here, the Motorola Razr. We pulled 3 of these out. I've got a V3C, a V3 Max, and a V3i, I think, so far. This one is completely working, ready to go. It's got the old VGA camera there, but we'll show you guys more on the Razr if you're not familiar with it already. I mean, the flip phone that changed the world. It turned the phone into a fashion accessory if Nokia hadn't already, and they're just really, really great. Tiny little phone, EL backlit, laser cut keypad. The Razr is a classic, and I also got a couple Crazers in there. A Motorola candy bar before we go to the very last and most important Motorola. This was on Boost Mobile, and I think it's called the i335. And the battery in it seems to be bad, but it's just a cool interface. It's like super strange. One of the weirdest candy bars you've ever seen. Nice side function buttons, but every button is rubberized and raised, and it has little hole punches through the keypad there. And speaker grill lookalikes on the bottom, and a little like lanyard mounting point on top. This is just a very interesting phone, which is why I'm giving it another honorable mention. And the last Motorola and the last phone we're going to talk about today is, of course, the StarTAC. I found 2 of them. An old fully analog one and the dual band, and it's got the LCD screen instead of the old LED segment display. It also adds these cool buttons on the side to flip through menus. You've got a select button up and down. It could also be the volume control, 2.5mm headphone jack, extendable antenna. The StarTAC, an absolute classic, and I don't have a single charger for a StarTAC. So I'm gonna find a charger and we're gonna dig into these things because this is history that I hope everybody knows. And I've got some really cool StarTAC accessories I don't think anyone's ever seen before. So that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching Tech Throwback, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.